Welcome to Coastside Poetry. Thanks to those of you who've zoomed in and those who are watching on YouTube. We meet either physically or virtually on the second Tuesday of every month to celebrate spoken poetry. I'm Diane Lee Mumi, and Steve Long and I are your hosts this evening. Our featured poet event is being recorded and streamed live onto YouTube as we speak, so anyone can look at it later. We'll be posting the link on our website, coastsidepoetry.org. This evening, we welcome former Bay Area poet now living in North Carolina, Mark States. Mark is the former host of Berkeley's long-running weekly open mic, Poetry Express, from 2002 to 2011. And facilitator of public speaking for poets workshops at the Berkeley Art Center from 2004 to 2007. He's well known in Bay Area and Los Angeles poetry circles. Whether online or in person, Mark's features are unique and full of surprises. His work has appeared in print publications such as Electronic Corpse, Oakland's Neighborhoods, and Poetalk, and online in Dashboard Horus, poeticdiversity.com, poetrymagazine.com, and others. He has poems in the 2022 anthology from Finishing Line Press, COVID, Isolation and Hope, Artists Respond to the Pandemic, and the Inner Child Press anthology, Poetry, the Best of 2022. And now, please welcome Mark States.
A house of shingles ensnared in vines and brush, as if a coil of barbed wire was stretched, then twisted out of shape. One side visible, as the house jutted out closer to the sidewalk than the house next to it, the one with the spacious yard where children and dogs frolicked. Upon occasion, you might notice a slat of a Venetian blind twitch above that coiling brush. The other side of the house was a foreboding melange of haphazardly placed tree branches like a game of pickup sticks conducted in midair at adult's height. What mystery or horror awaited anyone who dared take path to its door? A couple afternoons a week, a figure emerged from the house. No one on the block knew his name. We just called him the old man, adults and children alike. Plain, simple, white shirt, dusty, gray suit coat. It was like he stepped out of a 1950s black and white TV. A book in his left hand always, head more down than forward, walking north. If he saw children playing outside, he'd slow down, pace the sidewalk crack, teetering like a tightrope artist, sticking out his arms. He'd pretend to lose balance and swirl around while whooshing like an airplane before landing with a giggle and a smile. The old man would ask us a couple questions about our day or what we were playing before challenging us to be good now and walking away to wherever he was going. The old man from our block reminded me of the old man from the Cracker Jacks commercials on my 1970s TV. Not his face, his smile, his kindness. I trusted him. Nowadays, I am known for waving at every passing car as I walk through the parking lot in our complex. Children walking with their parents wave and dance and giggle while across the lawn I slow, giggle, dance, and wave back. In our world of stranger danger and horror stories awaiting a tap of a finger on a cell phone, I can only hope that 40 years from now, someone will tell the story of the old man in a beanie cap who, with a magical hand clap, brought a sunshine smile to a child's face and life. Only then the circle of my life will truly be complete. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Steve. And thank you all for tuning in. I am so honored and delighted to feature here at Coastside Poetry. I do not talk much between poems. Your feature presentation, Keep the Faith, continues with Faith Alive, the 21st Century Remix. Race was where you tried to run faster than someone else, and I always lost when I was 4. My friends were not the same color as me, lemon yellow, red, midnight blue, sepia, violet, olive green. And when you mixed all the crayon colors in the same space on the page, it was called gobbledygook. All this fuss about race was gobbledygook to me at 4, 5, 8, 9. I didn't understand and I didn't care to. I had my friends and we did just fine. But somewhere after graduating from coloring books, my world turned so black and white. Have you seen my childhood? Michael Jackson once asked. Say what you will, I wish I could get beyond the past, before wonder changed to rules, before joy changed to pain, before life turned into foxholes, countercharges, and grudges. I wish I could smudge the pages of recent history with gobbledygook and holler aquamarine to the stars. I wish we would learn to keep the fire of faith alive and not kill the child decades before it dies. Love life, love laughter, love yourself. And when tomorrow comes, you won't have to regret a damn thing. I believe. Not a cloud in sight as far as eyes can believe, yet it starts to rain. A heart torrential, a lamppost dim, the way is no longer sure. If holding on to someone is truly believing, then the lukewarm are left to cool, buttoned up, umbrella-less, as a puddle expands to fill with volume what sound cannot. When water lays, it does not lie. Not a soul in sight as far as hands can touch, so a spirit slips into a stream forming first to curb, then subterranean. A shadow wails. A rapper travels face down. The way has been lost. I've been not here, done that. Pausing at the gutter grill, watching water washing away sins of consumption. I has to believe this time the ocean is freedom. Heavy stuff, dude. From the fireplace, a constant whir and intermittent tat-tat-tats, resembling the ruckus from a cheap wall heater in an even cheaper motel room. Similarly, no heat emanates, as nothing is burning in the fireplace. It's the rain. Lifting a Venetian blind reveals the downpour, thick, frantic droplets plummeting between trees and bathed in a faint blue light from the complex's light posts. I imagine this is what it was like in the 1960s, standing outside a beaded doorway as secondhand hashish smoke drifts. Minus the 2-minute-old creek already forming in our parking lot, of course. Returning blind to its place, I ventured a bedroom to retrieve William Least Heat Moon's Blue Highway before joining jar of peanut butter and package of reduced sodium crackers on the couch. The whirring and rat-tat-tatting continues. Bookmark removed. I flipped the page and, naturally, the opening sentence is, "The wipers were useless." It's the 5th grade. I lived a block and a half from school. As the final bell sounded, it was sprinkling. With a stereotypical yellow-hooded rain jacket properly adorned, a metal lunchbox in one hand and the other hand holding onto the strap of a cello case, I exited the school, crossed the yard with its 4 square courts in need of a paint touch-up, and then past the galvanized steel monkey bars that were the bane of my un-Batman-like existence. Lugging that cello nearly my height was enough exercise in the yard. No teasing or bullying this day as I reached the gate on my twice-a-week walk of shame on band class days. Rain makes people just want to rush home. I really wanted a violin, but no, only the cool kids from the better half of the school's territory got those. We poorer got to choose among the rejects. Cellos, double basses, even heavier, trombones or cymbals. Perhaps I should have chosen the cymbals. They'd have provided better cover and better sound when all of Moby Dick's fury and the flood of seawater into the dining room of the Poseidon adventure crashed down upon me. Rain so hard and thick I could not see what was in front of me. Wind so strong every step forward felt like being pushed a step back. Rain jacket, pants, shoes, and the fabric of the cello case soaking wet. I carried the weight of 100 elephants with 100 more stampeding from above. It crushed me as nothing short of a heartbreak could. I cried for someone, anyone, to come save me, but no one came. Finally, the rain stopped and sunlight returned. I walked the final half block home, drowning more on the inside than out. Music teacher saw the still water-stained cello case the following week and bellowed, "You need to take better care of this. It's expensive. What's wrong with you?" Guess you could say it was the day my personal music died. Now, one day, a few years later, the neighborhood busybody, always peering through her blinds to catch children in mischief, stops me as I pass her yard. "I remember you," she says. Oh boy, what am I in trouble for now? This prehistoric barbecue Becky unfolds her arms. Her face of iguana with a disposition to match opens its mouth. "I am ready to be devoured." She says she heard the heavy whir of wind and the heavy clanks of rain on her roof. She lifted a Venetian blind and saw me in a yellow rain jacket, carrying that cello as tall as I was in a pouring down rain. The wind blowing so hard, I basically walked in place for 15 minutes. She admired. I kept fighting, 1 foot at a time. Through wind and window, she could hear my screams. There was nothing she could do to help, she said, pointing to her frail and elderly body, only able to stand and watch. It broke her heart. A moment of compassion from a most unlikely source. My heart was not the only heart broken that day. The wipers were useless. 1 short sentence, 1 flood of memories. When you lose your edge, it will not be long before you lose your center. The future should grow from the past, not obliterate it. The last time I visited Nana's house, in the passenger seat of a late 1970s Chevy, as my friend the driver nervously watched the people on the block, nervously watching us. It was an hour or so before sundown in East Oakland. She'd been dead 8 or 9 years, house sold, now 2 pickup trucks in the driveway and children's toys strewn about the yard. A bicycle lying on its side on the lawn, like a drunkard with one pedal leg and one handlebar arm raised in the air, seductively beckoning, "Come play with me." A black wrought iron fence, no spikes, at sidewalk's edge. That wasn't there before, I noted. In fact, most of the block was fenced now, along with barred windows. Nice paint job on the house, though. Then I looked up, and it struck me like Paul Bunyan's axe. Our tree in the backyard was gone. A solitary, majestic redwood. It towered over the neighborhood. Propped against it was a basketball backboard my uncle built with a few 2x4s and a section of plywood, to which he nailed a hoop with a fancy net. I forget how he affixed it to the tree so it would not, like in the cartoons, teeter, then topple over and flatten Wile E. Coyote, but it took several attempts and methods. That big old tree had a strange relationship going on with that pine tree next door. Wooden fence barely squeezed in between those two, and generally was ignored as if a feeble referee in TV wrestling, as those trees pushed against each other. Plenty of pine cones fell on our side of the fence, though, that we turned into baseballs for backyard batting practice. Have you ever tried to throw a curveball with a pine cone? Life threw me a curveball. One swing, one miss, then the ball hit me. I was as hurt and angry as when years ago some folks broke into Nana's house and stole enough stuff to fill a whole moving truck. This time the loss was a tree and my childhood memories. My friend asked if I wanted to walk up to the door and knock. No longer was I in the mood. Besides, our idling car in the middle of the block was attracting too much attention. I stared into the side view mirror until we turned the corner. It's true what they say. You can never go back home. You can only look back. And objects in the mirror might not be close to what you remember them to be. Tapping the brakes. Red lights, red lipstick, red shoes. Windshield fogged up and chassis shakes, hitting the skids without tapping the brakes. What I wouldn't give to prove I have what it takes to make you and me happy. You blew my mind, so I blew my cash. You took the bag and left me with the trash. Curbside pickup is not supposed to be unsteady chin-ups from the gutter. The eyelash is not supposed to leave welt marks on a tic-tac-toe back. So much muttering from the other room, dart shots in the dark that somehow hit their target unseen. You offer the night, and I take the hint. You swallow the moon, and from oblivion I squint. Red wine, red eyes, red lights flashing in the rear view mirror, chasing me through the midnight blue, trying to beat the setting moon to the horizon, looking for love in all the wrong embraces. My cocoons cracked open, destiny still in stasis. Gotta go, can no longer face this masquerade, this tiptoe through the too many reasons. I'll hate myself in the morning if I hit the skids again. Going for broken had its chance. It dawned on me this morning and eventually became a bright idea once the slightly overcast mind cleared. Night after night, I try to make it all fit together. The lights changed. Day after day, it's more of the same thing. Night after night, I find nothing more than the lights changed. Day after day, pushing paper and pulling out hair. Week after week, months after years, only get mentioned, only get attention when something is wrong. Night after night, pouring soul onto paper and spilling heart onto stage, week after week, years after lives, the faces and the places change, not what is thought of me. Day after day, sun glows, but flowers grow. Night after night, moon shines, but wine ages. Nothing more than my own mind has been changed about what I do and why. You look to the sky for a sign and for the time of day, while I look into your eye to read what your soul is saying, not your lips. Don't you tell me to live for work or for poetry, because day after day, night after night, one has to live for love and for eternity. Editor's note. The Lights Change was released by Mark States via his Facebook page mere hours after it was written in the period between parts 1 and 2 of the Signals trilogy of 2010. Its style reflects, however, the type of poem States wrote in the 1980s in many ways. Deceptively simple words and internal rhyme schemes that mask far deeper concepts about life. The ever-present use of 3 stanzas, and especially the 3-word title, not the obvious 3 words, but the 3 that mark the point of the poem. And the poem's longer lines employ contrasts or turns of phrase reminiscent of John Lennon. This editor has chosen the original version over the later version, slightly modified at the suggestion of Mark's friends prior to submitting for magazine publication, in respect to a point Mark made in the following oral history interview titled, Mark in My Own Words. Hi, y'all. This is Mark in My Own Words. Cassette tape number 2. Yeah, we can talk about The Lights Change now. Yes, I wrote it just like I wrote poems in the 1980s. The rappers boast about doing songs in one take. Well, so do I. Well, I boast too. But I often wrote poems in one take. And if it was good, it was a keeper. If not, well, I'd just write another one. It was no big deal to me then to edit. I wasn't sending them to magazines or taking them to readings where they'd be judged by anyone but myself. I wrote this poem in about 15 minutes, and it sounded and looked good to me. I released it so my friends could take a look at it and comment on it, and maybe decide whether I could fit it into Signals Part 2, which was pretty much done. And I was just looking for the right opportunity and venue to perform it in. So I took a nap one Saturday afternoon, and I woke up, and for no reason at all, the thought came to me to just grab my CD player and the Electric Light Orchestra Greatest Hits and play the song So Serious. I don't know why, but I did. And I heard 3 words in that song, day after day. And those 3 words struck me like lightning. And I jogged back to the bed with my notebook and pen and wrote the poem. Now, I had been thinking about the poem and the three components in it of a montage of 20 years, work, love, and poetry. And it was written for a book about recovery. That's recovery from loss of a loved one and job injury, not substance abuse. Just to be clear and dispel a rumor or two out there. So please, interviewer, make sure your cassette recorder is still on. So I was going to expand upon these components of montage of 30 years. It's a bigger time frame, so it has to be a bigger poem too, right? So when one has been contemplating these things for a couple of months, it's easy to sit down and write a quickie poem with simple words and have all these deeper meanings in them. Plus, I have skills with turning a phrase and all that. I'm a natural. So the number 3, spiritually or numerologically, if you must call it that, it's the number for creativity. It also represents a lot of things in various religions. It's not just mind, body, and soul, or blood, sweat, and tears. It's not enough to tear down the walls or break the chains or free the mind. That only gets you through 2/3 of the way of the creation, destruction, restoration trilogy. You have to restore, recover, heal, make whole again. Now, poets and lovers and office politicians like to destroy things, but what do they build up in its place? You can't just leave a place in ruins, erect a fence around it like a museum, and just say, oops, sorry, can we be friends now? The world does not operate like that. The world grows flowers and weeds over the places we humans destroy. The children we abuse continue to grow. And then we blame them when our neglect grows into an adult life of crime or the worldview that they were born to suffer. We tell those yearning for something more in life that their life has no meaning and no purpose beyond a job or what we expect them to do for us. The light changes, though, and the world moves on. So one has to live for love and for eternity. I wrote the words to editor's note as fiction in 2010. And now I have spoken them in real life in 2023. That, my friends, is playing the long game. Thank you very much. Looking forward to hearing the rest of you guys.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was wonderful. Let's unmute and make some lovely noise for Mark. Oh.
Fantastic.
Hey, Mark.
Wonderful.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And your reading, your presentation is so great.
Yeah.
Really
Thank
perfect.
you.
Very good.
Perfect.
Very enjoyable.
Super reading.
Thank you so much. Now I'm so blushing and overwhelmed. Thank you all.
It was terrific.
We're all living for love of Mark.
Oh,
They live for
goody. Hey.
Yeah.
I think you have one of the most distinctive voices I've ever heard. I really enjoyed your poems, but they don't remind me of anybody else at all.
Well, thank you. I hesitate to say that. When I edited Poetalk magazine for a while, somebody sent a cover letter to his poem saying hardly anybody publishes him because he's got such a unique voice. And I'm like, yeah, right, okay. And then I read his 7 or 8 submissions, and I'm like, he writes just like I do.
Well, there you go. You published him, I assume, right?
I don't remember. I don't remember that part of the story. I got to think about that.
I hope you did. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
You're a wonderful example for all featured readers in your preparation, in your enunciation, in the variance of your voice. It was
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you. You know, like some famous people, such as Joe Biden, I do have a stuttering issue, and sometimes I swallow words. I try to say one and something entirely different and opposite comes out. And so I'm glad people acknowledge how hard I work to enunciate properly. And so, you know, some people just throw their poems together and they're all fine and good poetry, and I have a great time. But for me, I have to practice, or I'm just like marbles in my mouth, you know.
Well,
So
well, you make it sound very easy. I mean, if you hadn't said anything, I wouldn't have noticed.
yes,
Very
yes.
So,
It
congratulations. It takes a lot of guts and hard work to overcome
Yes,
kind of,
yes, it does.
I don't like to use the word disability, but any kind of irregularity, shall we
Yes.
say, or you know,
Yes.
think of something that's not quite as perfect as we would like it to be.
Indeed.
The other thing is, though, it's so you hone in on the truth and meaning. You said that about how you go about it, but I can hear it, and you hit it every time. It really, it's remarkable, and I say that because I don't think we get to hear that sort of thing enough. We need your voice. We need it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll tape the duct tape. I'll keep the duct tape off. Thank you guys so much. And I am really looking forward to this all-star open mic too.
Well, thank
really
you so
am.
much, Mark. And we'll
Thank
stop recording in a moment. Those of you in the Zoom room, please stay online if you'd like to take part in the open mic. Thanks to all our YouTube listeners, and please tune in for our next regular Coastside Poetry event on Tuesday, July 11th, when we'll welcome East Bay poet and poet laureate emerita of Livermore, Connie Post.
Oh.
So thanks again, everyone, for joining us at Coastside Poetry and for helping to keep the lamps of poetry burning.